Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Today, President Biden is expected to unveil his massive Build Back Better agenda, which, by the way, is going to be split into two parts. I already did a video earlier today where I broke down what we can expect this spending package, what the focus is expected to be on, hundreds of billions of dollars in investment in the infrastructure in our country, split into two bills. But the question is, how is this going to be paid for? How are we actually going to pay for all this stimulus? According to some experts, the tax plan that is going to be instituted by President Biden to pay for stimulus will hurt every American and will include a penalty for married couples, potentially putting them at a significant disadvantage. Yep, you heard that right. Is the Biden tax plan likely to, I quote, hurt every American and include a marriage penalty, potentially putting millions of our fellow Americans who are married at a significant disadvantage when it comes to paying higher taxes? Here's a new headline on your screen from Fox. Biden's tax hike ideas will hurt every American, according to an expert. Apparently, it's a colossal lie that only the rich will be taxed. This is a comment from Mitch Rochelle, who is a Macro Trends Advisors founding partner. Here's what Rochelle said. It's a colossal lie to say we're only taxing the rich. The fact of the matter is, rich do in fact pay the bulk of the taxes in America. But if we raise corporate taxes, we raise payroll taxes, we take away the benefit put forth by the Trump administration for small businesses on pass-through entities. All of these are going to trickle down to workers, is going to trickle down to the entire economy and stall whatever economic growth we have on the horizon. So the fact of the matter is, when you say that you're just taxing the rich, you're actually taking away prosperity and you're taking away job creation, which has the impact of hurting basically every taxpayer. This is the logic from those who oppose the Biden tax plan to pay for the Build Back Better agenda. Here's another headline on your screen, also from Fox. Biden revenue plan includes marriage penalty, putting some couples at a significant disadvantage. Some earners will find themselves in a much higher tax bracket if they get married and file jointly. This is interesting. So there may be an incentive for some people to not get married, because if they file individually, they'll pay less taxes. That is what this article is implying. You'll get a link to this article and all of our resources, as always, as you've come to expect, in the description section below. Now, what happens to individuals who make less than $400,000, but they are part of a tax return and they are part of a household that makes more than $400,000? Well, this could be quite a problem, and this could actually impact the way individuals file their tax returns and potentially whether individuals even decide to get married. According to reporting from Fox Business, individuals who earn a lesser amount could be affected, however, if they are part of a couple filing jointly that reports a cumulative income of $400,000 or more. That means, according to Fox, some individuals may wind up being hit with the tax hike because they are filing jointly, whereas if they filed individually, they would not be above the specified threshold. This is very interesting, folks. So let's imagine for a second, the husband makes $350,000 a year, the wife makes $350,000 a year. This is just an example. If they file jointly, they are above the $400,000 threshold for household income, and therefore they'll be subject to a higher income tax rate. But individually, each of them are below the $400,000 threshold. Therefore, it might make sense for them to file individually. What does that mean? That means they don't get married. Gosh, these are implications that are probably beyond the scope of Ignition Time. Well, according to Timothy McGrath, who's the managing partner of investment advisory firm Riverpoint Wealth Management, this is what he told Fox Business. It's a significant disadvantage to married couples. It's another marriage penalty, and this is nothing new in the tax system. There are all sorts of tax marriage penalties right now. And this is what McGrath says. Two individuals can make just under $400,000 and not be in the top tax bracket, which, by the way, is the example I gave you earlier. However, two individuals earning $200,000 who are filing jointly would be. And under the proposal, the top tax bracket would increase to 39.6% from the current 37%. Now, folks, I want to be as clear as I can. This is only affecting those who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. For the majority of our fellow Americans, for the majority of our viewers and subscribers, this is not going to matter. So why am I covering this in the video? You can see that whatever President Biden does, there's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be people who position this as a marriage penalty. But if you're a couple making $60, $70, $80, $90,000 a year, which by the way is what a majority of our fellow Americans make, some make even less, this will have zero impact on you. But notice a very interesting framing from certain experts basically saying that, oh my God, this is the end of the world because it's a marriage penalty. Folks, this is not going to make a huge difference. And also for the individuals who end up paying the higher tax, it's going to be an extra 2 or 3%. I'm not saying that they can afford it and they should pay it, but I am saying that positioning this as something that can hurt every single American at this moment in time seems to me like a bit of a stretch. And one thing that is not a stretch is President Biden's ambitious attempt to try and pass this massive Build Back Better plan by this summer. Here's a headline of an article on your screen from CNN. Infrastructure timeline emerges as Biden aims to pass sweeping package this summer. Folks, this is a very ambitious timeline, and again, you'll get a link to this article in the description section below. So today, when the president speaks, he's going to highlight the first part of the Build Back Better agenda and how to pay for this. According to reporting from CNN, the first prong of the White House proposal will be financed in large part through business tax increases, including raising the corporate tax to 28% from where it is currently 21%. By the way, prior to the Trump tax cuts, these tax rates were at 35%, and increases in the global minimum tax, the ending of federal subsidies for fossil fuel firms, and requirement that multinational corporations pay the US tax rate. So what President Biden is trying to do is essentially propose some ways initially to try and raise revenue for the massive spending that is coming. In fact, in some really interesting comments from Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary at the White House in the past 24 hours, as Jen does her job of trying to prepare the American people for what the president is about to say today, she said some important things. She said President Biden's speech today will not only outline plans for new and improved roads, rails and bridges, but also broadband access and other infrastructure upgrades. By the way, I'll show you crucial segments where Jen comments about the infrastructure plan from the hour-long press briefing that took place yesterday. You don't have to watch the whole thing. I've watched the whole thing because I'm a nerd and I've identified the segments for you, and our team has put it together for you. Jen Psaki also said that President Biden will lay out a broad vision when it comes to infrastructure, but he's also interested in listening to ideas from members of Congress, and it seems to be that the entire plan from President Biden is a high-level plan, and the specifics are going to be worked out as we get closer and closer to the actual work of Congress. So now let's hear from the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. In this first segment, she talks about the outreach from President Biden to the Democrats to woo them. By the way, these aren't her words, these are the words of the person asking the question, and she's like, oh, that's an interesting phrase, woo them. But the fact is, the president has to woo Democrats, both the moderate Democrats as well as the conservative Democrats, like Joe Manchin from West Virginia, like Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona, as well as the independent from Maine, Angus King. The president needs all their votes. So let's hear Jen Psaki talk about the outreach from the presidents to moderate Democrats to woo them to support the infrastructure package. Because folks, what we are about to hear today is a vision, is a broad plan. But the specifics, the mechanics, what happens, what doesn't happen, will be worked out in the coming months. And President Biden wants the whole thing passed by summer. Let's roll the tape and hear from Jen Psaki.
The last package.
Woo them. I like it. The president will be, of course, directly engaged in this effort to move this package forward. I will say that what he views his role is laying out what a vision is, a broad vision, a bold vision for how we can invest in America, American workers, our communities. We're also, though, very open to hearing ideas and proposals from members of Congress, Democrats or Republicans. We know that 80% or more of people in this country, Democrats and Republicans, support investing in infrastructure. And of course they will. Of course they do. We're 13th in the world as it relates to infrastructure. We're one of the wealthiest countries in the world. That doesn't make a lot of sense to most people across the country. More than 1/3 of bridges in this country need repair. That's 231,000. That's a lot of bridges. 1 in 5 miles, or 886,000 miles of our highways and major roads are in poor conditions. those aren't issues where Democrats just have concerns. Republicans have concerns, independents, people who don't see themselves as political. And he believes that we can't afford not to invest in improving our infrastructure. There are questions about people may have different ideas about how to pay for it. We're open to hearing them. So hopefully people will bring forward ideas.
That was interesting. Now, folks, whether the White House press secretary admits it or not, politics is about timing, it's about opportunity, it's about tribalism, us against them, and it's about perception, what people think. Perception is actually more important than reality in politics. Now, speaking of perception, Jen Psaki does a good job pointing out that the focus of the administration is clean energy and good paying jobs. Let's hear Jen Psaki talk about the new focus of the Biden administration, good paying, clean energy jobs. Let's roll the tape and hear the White House press secretary.
Certainly investing in, we've talked about this a little bit, roads, rails, and bridges is part of it. The president believes that we can do that in a way where we can create good paying, clean energy jobs, union jobs. That's part of his vision for investing in industries of the future. He also believes there's more we can do on broadband and ensuring that the far too large percentage of the American people who don't have access, and we invest in that. There's a lot of ways to do that, I will say, though, and he's very open to the ideas coming from Congress on how to do it. And they may have different perspectives on how to do it, the right way to invest and to do it. But he sees, clean energy and clean energy jobs as central to his own vision and his own objectives. You'll certainly hear him talk about that tomorrow. And but the speech is really about. It's about jobs, it's about investing in the industries of the future, and it's about rebuilding parts of our communities that have long been forgotten.
And finally, in a very clear sign of what we can expect to hear from President Biden in his address from Pittsburgh today, Jen Psaki said that the president's vision for paying for future investments in America, specifically the entire Build Back Better agenda, is going to happen with tax reform proposals. That's a fancy way of saying, hey, we're going to have to increase taxes on some people. These are interesting times and interesting comments from the White House press secretary as she gives us a precursor, a preview, if you will, of what the president is about to say today. Let's roll the tape and hear from Jen Psaki.
Is the president willing to sign a bill that does not pay dollar for dollar for all of the proposals that he has?
Well, the president believes it's responsible to propose a way for paying over time for his vision for investing in infrastructure and our economy and American workers. There will be a range of views, including how to pay for it. People will be for or against. Some people may not want to pay for it, and he's open to having those discussions. So, but the focus of his speech, of his proposal, is on investing in America. We're talking about tax reform proposals that would help pay for it over time. But the reason he is putting this forward is because he thinks it's responsible to put forward a plan to pay for it as a means of discussing that. But it's really about investing in workers.
But he is open to deficit financing in a final package. Is that?
Again, I think we haven't even proposed the speech yet. There will be a range of views on Capitol Hill, as we all certainly know. He's proposing a way to pay for his proposals over time. We'll look forward to hearing from members of Congress on how they want to approach it, given there's such strong support for infrastructure investment across the country.
That's it, everyone. The realities of trying to pay for this massive infrastructure plan that collide with the alarm bells and that collide with these big warnings about the Biden tax plan hurting every American, the marriage penalty putting some couples at a significant disadvantage. It's interesting how these two worlds collide when you explore the news from different sources. My goal is to give you the truth wherever the truth might lead us, and I want you to be the judge, because I believe when presented with the news, you can make a decision for yourself. I have a lot of confidence and I have a lot of faith in our viewers. That is why I present you with both sides, and I let you be the judge. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, the economy, as well as your money. Thank you for watching this episode. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. Right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Thank you so much for watching. Please take a second of your time and click the like button below. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.